Good morning, everybody. We will go ahead and call to order the Standing Committee on Homelessness. I don't have my notes, but that's okay. I think I remember the procedure. So we will go ahead and start with a roll call from our city clerk.
The record shall reflect the chair and vice chair are both present.
All right, and I'll make a comment on speaking on the agenda. Speakers are allotted 3 minutes to address the committee. Speakers may only speak on the item. You can fill out a speaker slip or join via Zoom using the raised hand button. Is there anything else procedurally we need to go over? All righty. So for the item that we have to discuss today, and I'm guessing we don't have any oral communications, nope, would be discussion D1 to discuss different organizational options to continue the Standing Committee on Homelessness. And I believe we have some updates from staff. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Vice Chair?
Oh, I'm sorry, we do have to approve the minutes from our last session, isn't that right? Oh, I'm so sorry. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And regarding the minutes, I don't have any changes. Mayor, do you have any changes?
No, I do not. I would move to approve.
Moved to approve and seconded and unanimously approved. So we will go ahead and move forward to our discussion. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This item provides different organizational options for the Standing Committee on Homelessness to consider and provide a recommendation to City Council for adoption at a later date. The Standing Committee on Homelessness was created on January 23, 2024, when the City Council established a Brown Act Standing Committee made up of Mayor John Franklin and Deputy Mayor Katie Melendez, with the remaining council members as ex officio members. The Standing Committee on Homelessness is currently scheduled to meet at 8:30 a.m. on the third Thursday of each month and met in February, March, April, May, June, and August of 2024. The first meeting in February was held in the Morris B. Vance Community Room, and all subsequent meetings have held in the City Council chambers. The meetings in July and September through December 2024 and January 2025 were canceled. On January 14th, 2025, the City Council directed staff to provide options for a community-centered group to advise the strategic plan to address homelessness. Staff have presented 5 organizational options to continue the oversight by City Council of the strategic plan for the committee to consider and discuss this morning. The first option is to continue the Standing Committee in its current configuration, with the mayor and deputy mayor rotating as chair and vice chair, and remaining council members as ex officio members with no voting authority. The second option is to appoint community members as additional committee members with voting authority equal to the chair and vice chair, and there would be no limitation on the number of committee members. The third option is to form a homelessness commission, which would be comprised entirely of appointed community members. A commission is subordinate to the City Council, and council members may not serve on the commission. This would be a staff-led body with recommendations presented to City Council by city staff. Fourth option is to effectively consolidate the Standing Committee in semi-annual strategic plan update workshops and hold quarterly strategic plan update workshops. This would serve the intention of the City Council in forming the Standing Committee to allow more frequent updates and lengthier discussions on strategic plan activities without burdening the City Council's twice-monthly open session agenda. Holding quarterly workshops would also call for the attendance of all council members, which would allow for formal council actions to be taken, such as resolutions to approve new contracts or accept grant funds. A fifth option is to continue the semi-annual strategic plan update workshops only, with intermediate strategic plan items requiring City Council action, such as awarding contracts or receiving grant funds, brought to the regularly scheduled City Council meetings. Additional considerations for this morning's item include the meeting venue. As previously mentioned, the first Standing Committee meeting was held in the Morris B. Vance Community Room here at Civic Center, but due to the inability to stream and record the meeting, subsequent meetings have been held in the City Council chambers. Since the first Standing Committee meeting in February 2024, Equipment has been installed in the community room to allow for live streaming and recording, though it is limited to a single camera with lower video quality than the council chambers. Future meetings may also continue to meet in these council chambers, but committee or commission members' seating is limited to 5, whereas the community room has the ability to accommodate member numbers over 5. Future meetings could also meet virtually, which may allow greater accessibility for community members and stakeholders to attend, particularly during working hours. Future meetings may also be considered with a different start time, with the council discussion on January 15th and additional informal feedback identifying but not limiting to the existing 8:30 a.m. start time, along with 10:30 a.m., 2:30 p.m., and 5:30 p.m. A ranking survey sent to current strategic plan partners has returned a weighted and ordered preference from strategic plan partners for 10:30 a.m., followed by 5:30 p.m., 8:30 a.m., then 2:30 p.m. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't believe we have any speakers from the public at this time, but I see we have some partners and community members. At any point, if you'd like to fill out a speaker slip, we would welcome your comments. So thank you for this update. I had just one question. It seems like we are holding the standing committee as it is in option 1, and we are executing option 5, where we have semi-annual strategic plan updates with intermediate items requiring city council action. I believe we do that at this time.
Yeah, that's correct. The only difference with option 5 and what we're currently doing is option 5 would not include the standing committee.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would, after speaking with staff, and I know we haven't met in a while, but back in October, I met with staff to review our options for our standing committee, and I appreciate now we can come back and have the discussion, and we've found that there are a couple of options. My recommendation would be to establish a homeless commission with appointed community members, excluding those with any conflict, and we would design their responsibilities, but in general, their responsibility would be to review our plan. But I also believe that we need to increase our council workshops to include long-term strategic planning items. Tomorrow, Mayor and I will be viewing some shelter options in other cities. We're doing some research and development on, different types of construction, and we're essentially going down a road to make some 30-year commitments. I think our current review of our strategic plan to address homelessness has really been just keeping things up year by year, but I would ask that the council has more items for long-term strategic planning. So I think we need to be doing that. And we also want to retain the working group of contracted service providers as they are the ones executing the plan. So there's a couple of meetings that I think need to happen in order to continue our strategic plan to address homelessness. We've got our ongoing working group. We have increasing our council's participation in the long-term planning, as well as having general oversight of the strategic plan, and then establishing a homelessness commission with appointed community members and diverse stakeholders so that we can review the plan, review contracts, research funding opportunities, provide expertise on homelessness, and, get philanthropic stakeholders, folks with lived experience, people who understand what it's like to operate a shelter as we're venturing down these long-term commitments. So those would be some of the actions that I would like to take that would both include increasing council's participation in the discussions and including more stakeholders. Would love to turn it to Mayor Franklin.
So you're suggesting one of the options here, or two of the options, or a modified option?
I think it's a combination of option, I think it was 3. Yeah, an option 3, which is to form a commission, and option 4, right, to increase our workshops. But I really think that our workshops, Mayor, should be focused, if we're gonna increase our action on this, considering that we're gonna be making some long-term commitments in the next year, I think that we should be doing more long-term strategic planning. And, you know, staff can reflect on this with us as well. What are our current actions that are really taking a long-term look at our strategic plan? I don't think we've really had a session to look at homelessness 30 years out.
So to recap, option 3,
Option 3 and a modified option 4 to increase our workshops to include not just general updates, but long-term strategic planning.
I'd just be very clear. I'm opposed to creating another commission. We've created a lot of commissions in the last few years. They're a burden on staff time. And members of the commission come to me on the traffic commission, and they say, we gave you advice, you didn't listen. We recommended something, you didn't listen. The Public Safety Commission has never been given purview over the deputy sheriff's operations and is limited only to the fire department, and says the same thing, we give you recommendations, you don't listen. The authority to make these decisions is vested with the city council. I conduct interviews for a short period of time with individuals applying for appointments to commissions. Some of them I even know, they're members of the community who may be business owners, they may be stakeholders somehow in the community. But, for instance, I've had many good conversations with Pete, who's here today, and I'd like to say I know something about the way he thinks, but, I could appoint Pete to the commission, but I don't really know which direction his decision-making is going to go. Pete might vote for something, and I might feel differently, and now I've appointed him, and, my feeling is we are never bound by, have often reversed the decisions of our most consequential committee, our planning commission. We often reverse their decision-making, at least on consequential programs or projects of great public interest. I don't see why this forum that we're holding right now is insufficient, because every member of the community that wanted to come and speak and be heard before the council on the subject of homelessness had an opportunity to be with us right now this morning. All of them entitled to a minimum of 3 minutes, and Madam Chair, I suspect you'd give them longer in this more casual environment. I certainly would be open to that, particularly our partners and people who have that experience recovering. I would want to give them all the time to listen to them. But when I see that, we have our folks from Reach Red and is La Posada, right? Are you with La Posada? St. Francis. We have our friends from St. Francis here, but we have only 5 people who've come this morning. I don't even know if that's enough to make up the membership of a commission. I guess the public, when we ask them what issue is of great interest to them, homelessness repeatedly comes up the #1 issue. But yet the good people of Vista have jobs and lives and families to attend to, and they have placed this great trust in us. And we conducted an extensive campaign where for many months we told the people of Vista what it was that we stood for, what our deepest held beliefs were. And the people of Vista came to, question us at different forums and ask us who we are and what we believe. And they've invested this authority in us. And so while I'm desirous of hearing all the input of any person who wants to come, and we have 2 opportunities at minimum every month. This is the 3rd where people can come and speak and be heard. It's difficult when we want to delegate our decision-making authority. It's difficult to imagine that the people of Vista had a fair opportunity to review not only the qualifications, but the biases and the philosophy of the individuals who we might appoint. In fact, the reality is they would have no advanced knowledge, and we, the council, would have very little advanced knowledge of what the philosophy of these individuals is. We might think we know, whereas, after 10 years on the council, I think people know where I'm coming from in Vista. I think most people know. They can set their clock by what way Franklin's going to go on the issues. I rarely surprise people. And that gives people the opportunity to be for me or be against me, whether they agree or disagree with the way I generally make decisions, which I think in a society, we don't live in a democracy. Shocker. We live in a Republican democracy. Republican part being republic, the representatives, the people elect representatives in whom they've invested the authority and hope that when they go out to live their lives, that we will do the things that we promised on the campaign stump that we would. So the Republican small r portion of our democratic republic is incredibly important, because our good citizens are wonderful people, but they simply don't have the time. We hold the meetings at 5:30 in the evening. We hold them at 10:30. We hold them at 8:30 in the morning. I don't think there's any good time we can hold them that it wouldn't interfere with somebody's working schedule or with their family schedule or the time they'd like to be with their families, time they'd like to be at church. It's difficult to take this time away from other obligations to be here, as we see by the most important issue. We have 32 people on our payroll. I know we've got 2 of them here. We have 32 people on our roster of city-funded homeless service providers, and there's 30 of them that aren't even in the room right now. If we can't even get our own staff marshaled up to come have this big conversation. My fear also is we're handing out with the 7 million, we don't have it secured yet, right? It's coming soon. When we get to 7 million, so that's going to put us at $23 million. Yeah, about $24 million spent. Now that's a lot of money. Now, state auditor did a report and said we spent $24 billion, and we don't know where it went. Those of us sitting here in this room, we know exactly where it went. We saw it on the ground. We saw a lot of attempts to help people repetitively that oftentimes missed the mark, and sometimes we celebrated when it did really help somebody into transformative change in permanent housing. But it is a big concern, and the public has become well aware that there are many philosophies how to solve the problem that are in search of the great amount of public dollars. And whenever you have a great amount of public dollars, you have a great imperative for oversight and for somebody to ask the question, are the taxpayers receiving the value for which they've invested? Are the things that we're doing innovative or effective? Because you see, we continue to invest more and more dollars, sometimes into the same approach, expecting a different result, but never yielding a different result. And Einstein said that that was the definition of insanity. He said, if you continue to do the same thing expecting a different result, you're crazy. It's our job to seek out new, novel, and innovative ways to solve problems. And I fail to see why the community is inhibited to come here this morning and be a part of this meeting. Why would things be different if we established a homeless committee? And you talk about wanting to put people on it with lived experience. I've seen some of the people who have come, and some of them have had wonderful moving stories. some of the people who have, what does lived experience means? It means that they have recovered from homelessness. And I honor and respect the fact that they've recovered. But, I guess I'm going to say something that I think well more than half the general public might agree with. If you've been recently struggling with drugs and homelessness, I'm not sure that you're necessarily in a place where the community wants to invest its decision-making authority in you. Do you have something relevant to say? Absolutely. Should we care about these human beings, our brothers and sisters that God has created as his children? Absolutely. I feel deeply for the interest in humanity of all of our brothers and sisters that struggle with sobriety and homelessness. But when we talk about appointing somebody based solely on the fact that they've recovered from homelessness, I have to question, that does that necessarily make them a prime target? I mean, there are great leaders like Dane White, the mayor of Escondido, a great friend of mine, who's qualified, has lived experiences recovering from homelessness and addiction, but also established himself for years in the community as a leader on the school board. He really reestablished himself. And so certainly those people who have other qualifications and have investment in the community. But one of the other things we see is we see a large number of people who are working for, have an interest in, maybe they don't have a direct financial interest. I suspect maybe you don't have a direct financial interest in any of the enterprises that you're a part of, but yet you have a personal interest because you've maybe spent your time. And I don't think, I don't believe we can write a law that says if you volunteered somewhere that you'd be ineligible to serve. Do you think?
On a commission?
Would it be a conflict of interest if I was a volunteer at Operation Hope?
No, I don't believe so.
And what if I'm a donor, I give them $50 every month? Does that make me ineligible?
I think it's something you'd have to disclose, but I don't think it makes you completely ineligible.
Well, I certainly have organizations, that I am more familiar with than others. I've been and visited many organizations. I had a good feeling about some, maybe better than others. Like the philosophy at some better than others. But when I put my decision-making hat on as a council member, I know not only do I represent all 100,000 people in Vista, but I know that they're going to hold me accountable for the outcomes. So I know you're trying to include more people, but I just wonder why, when you put the Scion call out for them to come this morning, why they aren't coming. Clearly, this is a huge priority for people, but I just don't believe that they have the desire or the ability to be here with us, else they would have been here throughout many of the meetings that we've had monthly. We don't get many more people show up. When we talk about hiring a private operator for the wave, we get every young person who swims in the wave pool for water polo, and they fill the whole room. They have a personal interest, and I understand that. The problem of this particular public policy issue is that every citizen has a broad interest. Very few citizens have a narrow interest, but every citizen has a broad interest in solving this problem. In other words, it's on the top of all of our minds as citizens, but it may not be something that's affecting them personally. So, for all of those reasons, and I know you're going to go ahead with it, and I know the council's going to vote for it, but I just, I don't understand, other than you get to hand out an appointment to somebody, I just don't understand why to delegate the authority that you were elected to, that the citizens had the ability to review your qualifications and your philosophies, why to delegate that authority to an organization. And then the other problem is, and one of the big reasons I don't want a commission, is because the commission's going to come up with ideas, and maybe they're bad ideas. Sometimes our commissioners have bad ideas. I have bad ideas, but I got elected by the people and have the right to have bad ideas. we have a process for selecting our representative leaders. This deal where we're going to delegate and go home and not come to work and do our job because we've got other things to, I have other things to do, you know. I'm not able to earn enough money to afford to live in the city of Vista on the $18 that you pay me to be the mayor, though I'm grateful for the privilege and the honor of serving. You know, I have to go to work and do a real job in order to pay my mortgage in this city. So I have other things that I need to attend to and family that I'd like to be with, but I've decided to take time away from my family and earning a living to be here because this is so important, and because I went door to door, and I knocked on thousands of doors, and I asked voters to invest the faith and trust in me to make these decisions. And I didn't say I was going to appoint some people that were friends of mine to come in and do it for me. I just don't understand how these 5 people or 7 people or however many you want to put on this commission, I don't understand how they're going to do a better job. And at the end of the day, they're never going to have spending authority. We have the spending authority. The council has the spending authority. So it's going to be still our job to conduct meaningful oversight. And to me, that is what, you know, we have done in this committee that has been of greater benefit to the public than anything else we've ever done, is we have an opportunity to have a regular dialogue with our service providers in whom we've invested millions of dollars of taxpayer money. And we get to ask them difficult questions, and because we are the ones who will approve the funding. I don't think that breaking the direct connection between the significant time we're investing in personally asking these questions by having an alternative group of people who will not then sit with us when we make the decision to vote on the funding for these service providers. I don't think that's the right way to go. I think it should be we who are voting on their funding, asking the questions directly to them to hold them accountable for how the money is spent. So I just can't get there to support this idea of a homeless commission. All of our, and I'll end with this, and I know we have a speaker. We do not have a good track record of honoring the intention and time of our commission members. We really don't. When it comes to the weightiest of public policy issues, we have not treated them with seriousness, because at the end of the day, we are jealous, and I am jealous of the power that has been invested in me by the people. I spent a great deal of time and effort in order to win the confidence and trust of the people. And I believe that the people all had an opportunity to vote for me or against me. So to delegate that power to somebody else, to me, would feel like some kind of an abrogation of the trust that was invested in me. And for that reason, we don't tend to delegate those powers. So when it comes to redesigning our streets, they don't allow the traffic commission to do that. Oh, they might have, where are you going to put a speed bump? They might have control over, you know, they might get to hear the question of where are we going to put a stop sign. But, you know, if they came to us and said we want a new traffic signal built for $750,000 or $1 million at a particular location, we wouldn't do what they asked. We wouldn't. It wouldn't happen. You know, the repeated requests of some of our commissions to have more authority has not been honored. So what then is the purpose of appointing people who believe that we've invested real authority in them, when in fact they're going to have meetings, and like it is now, we have 3 council members who are ex officio on this committee, but they had more important things apparently to do this morning than to show up and be part of this conversation. I do not want to get the council on an item. We've spent more discretionary money on homelessness